Hello, everybody. We are back. Hooray! We are back for another run of Ladder Thursdays. So good to be diving into this series once more. I am your host, Lonk the Sane. Thank you for tuning in once again to my channel. And today I'm going to be bringing you an oldie but goodie, Red Blue Aggro. If you recall, Red Blue Aggro was once very prominent in the metagame, but around Halloween time, a patch came out and took away a lot of the tools this deck once had, most notably Demolition Speedway went from needing just one blue gem to two, which really kind of slowed this deck down, so it kind of disappeared from the metagame for a good long while. But in this recent patch that we've had, it's gotten some new tools, so it has come back. And this is a build that was created by none other than Tunestar. Very good, very aggressive build for this deck. So we'll try this out and see just how competitive this is and see if this will be a major player in the weeks to come in the metagame. So let's get rolling here. Myth, of course, is playing Red Orange Midrange, a deck that got nerfed quite a bit, but it itself is still a very good, very strong deck. And coming up on my next turn is going to be a key piece of interaction for this deck. If you recall, the old version, it was usually turn 1 Strigoi Pup, turn 2 Demolition Speedway, get in for 4 damage, gain 4 life. As you see here, I'm going to play the Honed Edge. I'm going to use my Leprechaun's Coin, play out Daring Trapezist. So get in for 2, get in for 6, and then gain 4 life from the Strigoi Pup. Instead of an 8-point swing, that is a 10-point swing on turn 2. I think that's a piece of interaction that's going to be dealt with probably somewhere down the line, because that is huge, especially for an aggressive deck. And as you can see here, I'm going to put down a Cairn Henge on Daring Trapezist, take out Strigoi Pup, get in for 4 more, gain 4 life. So we are looking really, really good by turn 3 here. There's a Wings of Abaddon. That's a card that was recently nerfed. Normally, when the opponent plays that out, it could have eaten the stray Panacea. It would have drawn a card, gained some life, but because of the recent patch, it now costs 1 mana to activate Wings of Abaddon's ability, so the opponent was not able to do so. And as you can see, I still have not learned my lesson. I put my minions too close together, got punished by Magmatar, but no problem. We'll just play out the Panic Raider, get in for a couple and draw a card. Maybe we'll get an answer. Daring Trapezist is looking pretty good. Got a lot of things we can do to finish off the opponent. And the opponent's going to leave a gap right up the middle, so we'll just drop Wings of Abaddon. And turn 6, just finish off the Red Orange Midrange. So, like I said, Red Orange Midrange, it had a lot of nerfs, but it's still a very good, very strong deck. And you saw some key pieces of interaction with the Red Blue Aggro. Most notably, that Honed Edge, which is a card that's now very prominent in the metagame. And you saw just why there. A 4-3 Strigoi Pup on turn 2 is tough to deal with, especially when the opponent doesn't have an answer right away. We were able to get in for a lot of damage with it and gain a lot of life off of it. So, to be fair though, Red Orange Midrange has the better long-range game plan, and if they can survive the initial onslaught, the longer the game goes on, the better the chances are for Red Orange Midrange. But as you saw there, we were able to get underneath it, get a lot of damage in very quickly, and take out the Red Orange Midrange before they had a chance to really come back and do anything about it. So yeah, I'd say between Red Blue and Red Orange, it's kind of an even matchup. Not really clear who has the edge at this point, but we'll see how the metagame evolves. So that was a good thing to know. Everybody wants to know if a deck can beat Red Orange Midrange, but let's take a look at some of the other matchups out there and see how this deck does. So match number 2 is going to be against Praetor Pyro, playing green-yellow control. And against the control matchups, you really want to see Aggro do well. Aggro is one of the things that can keep control decks in check. As you've seen, at least the past couple of months, control decks have kind of ruled the metagame all over the place. So let's see how Red-Blue does in this matchup. We're going to see a Maze come out, so that's going to tell me right away this is going to be a control-y type of deck. So I'm going to play out the Strigoi Pup here. Play it away. Just want to get in for as much damage as fast as we possibly can. And same as last time, we'll burn a blue. Play the Honed Edge. Play the Leprechaun's Coin. Put out Daring Trapezist. Let's have the 10-point swing. So right away, we're off to another fast start. But green-yellow has some answers, namely Mesa Libre. That's going to lock down our Strigoi Pop, although we will gain some life when it crashes into it eventually. There's a Panic Raider, so let's get in for 4 and draw a card. Another Honed Edge. And we draw Cairnhenge off the Rainbow's End. So far, so good. It looks like we're able to get underneath green-yellow, but you can see in their hand, they have the Misanthropia. So our Trapeze is locked down. There's a Grinning Kolobok. At this point, I'm actually not too worried about the Kolobok. I just want to get in for as much damage as I possibly can to take out the opponent. So they're going to hop over the Kolobok. They'll crash it in, cash in for the mana. Lock down the Wings of Abaddon. And play Raid the Tomb. So the opponent not firing off the Misanthropia just yet. Alright, there's an Alacrity. If you remember my first ever video I did Mono Red Midrange. And that was one of the cards that I had in the deck. Card is very high on. It's a good solid finisher. But here we're just trying to finish off the opponent. So they're going to gain some life when they play the Harvester. They'll put a Maze in front of the Trapezist, take out the Wings. But we have the victory here. Because Alacrity is going to give my minions +1/+0 as well as Agile. So we'll play that. We'll play the Honed Edge and get in for lethal with the Wings. So our opponent, maybe they should have fired off the Misanthropia at some point, but we were able to take, their kind of sort of misplay and use it to our advantage. And you saw Alacrity's power there as a finisher. We were blocked off, and in past metagames, this deck probably would have been done for. Like, there would have been no easy answer other than 2-for-1ing that Harvester. But Alacrity gave us another tool that we can use. You saw the Honed Edge come into play as well, pumping up our minion to get in for the lethal. So, yeah, this has some good tools to combat control decks. And, this deck does run into typical problems when it comes up against control. If we're not able to get underneath it fast enough, just like with the mid-range decks, the control decks can just kind of take over and win the game. But in this case, we were able to get underneath it and finish it off. So let's take a look at one more match with this deck. Our third and final match here is going to be against Silver Arrow 17, playing Orange Blue Midrange. So let's see how this deck stacks up against a mid-rangey kind of deck. And we don't need Alacrity. That's more of a finisher, so that's an easy burn on turn 1. Unfortunately, we don't have too much we can do in our hand at the moment. We'll burn the other Alacrity. Just say go here. So we're off to kind of a slow start. So I'm kind of hoping the opponent just doesn't have a very fast start here. There's a Dust Devil, so they're playing some Desert Synergies. There's a Daring Trapezist. Burn one of the Honed Edges, play out the Panic Raider, draw a card. At this point, I just kind of want more minions in hand to be able to, get in for that damage. Kara Morningwise is going to be a big help here. There's Serendipity Ifrit. So here I'm going to burn the Cairnhenge, play out the Kara Morningwives. Just going to make the opponent have a Seal of Exile or something to deal with it. If we can get her to stick, she can do a lot of damage. She's down to 1 health. Alright, there's seeing Recruiter in front of her. And normally she would be pretty much done for here, but we can drop Demolition Speedway on her, and once again, the Honed Edge to the rescue. So now we can run over as Seeing Recruiter, get in for a whole bunch. Play Trapezes, take out that Dust Devil. We're still going to take some damage from the Ifrit here, but that's alright. Alright, there's a Sign of Pride with the Pride of Place token. So now I can't do any damage to it, but we do have another key piece of interaction here. There's Wings of Abaddon. Let's put the Vulcan brand on it. So even though our opponent blocked, we still did 3. We get in for 6 with Sign of Pride, which looks like we came up short, but Serendipity Ifrit stabs the opponent squarely in the back. They took the point of damage from drawing a card, so we were just able to get them to 0 and just hang on for the win. I wanted to show that matchup because the Vulcan brand is also another key addition to this deck. It's able to act as, turn any one of your minions into Magmatar pretty much. You do take 3 damage from it, but because we're playing aggro, that 3 damage is hopefully not going to matter in the long run. As you can see there, we were able to spare a little bit of life and get in for that lethal bit of damage. So yeah, some good key pieces of interaction that we've seen across all 3 matches. So let's take a look at this deck, and we'll talk about it for a little bit. So that was Tunestar's Red Blue Aggro. When I start with this one, I guess we'll start with some of the new tools that this deck got. First and foremost, the Honed Edge. I mean, wow. This card is almost single-handedly bringing aggro back from the dead, and as you saw, it's a very important card in this deck. In instances where we otherwise would trade it, like you saw in that last game with the Kara Morning Wives, where it would have traded with the opponent's minion, it was instead able to survive and keep dealing damage. Or you could drop it on one of your early minions, like a Strigoi Pup, and get in for some extra damage early that way. So this card, very prominent in the metagame right now, especially in aggro decks, and definitely a key player in this one. We also have a couple copies of the Vulcan brand. You saw me use it in that last matchup to get in some extra damage where I otherwise would have just traded. But this also can act as a bit of a removal in itself. It can turn your minion into, something like a Magmatar, and it's able to hopefully take out a minion or 2 you otherwise wouldn't be able to. It does deal 3 damage back at you, but in an aggressive deck like this, that really shouldn't matter in the long run because you're getting in for as much damage as fast as possible. So hopefully you're able to take out the opponent before that 3 damage, becomes anything significant, before it comes back to bite you. And you definitely saw in that last match there. If not for this card, we wouldn't have been able to swing in for the lethal damage on the turn that we did. So definitely a key piece of removal in this deck. And also we have 2 copies of Alacrity. The old red-blue really didn't have a finisher. It didn't run Alacrity. It didn't run Allfather's Horn or anything like that. But this is definitely, I think, a huge addition to this deck. Because now we're able to swing in for lethal in instances where we otherwise wouldn't. You saw that in the second match. Our opponent had us blocked off. In a lot of cases, that might be the point where we just ran out of steam. Instead, I was able to use the Alacrity to get around our opponent's minions and get in for that last bit of damage to provide the lethal. So, yeah, those 3 cards are now key components in this deck. The rest shouldn't come as too much of a surprise. We're running Rainbow's End, so of course we have a bunch of enchantments. We have 4 copies of the Cairnhenge, 3 of Demolition Speedway, 2 of the Giant Stairway, and then red adds a copy of Red Carnival, as well as Stairway to Hades. Only 11 enchantments in here, so a bit on the low end, but we are playing aggro, so hopefully we won't need the card draw from it. Yeah, you don't want too many cards devoted to just card draw in a deck like this. You want to just be able to keep swinging in for as much damage as you possibly can. But yeah, a little bit on the low end for the enchantments, but so far it seems to be working just fine. And for the minions, nothing should come as a real surprise there either. We have the Einhard Thane. We have Bragi Runesinger. We are playing an enchantment deck after all. We have Kara Morning Wives, as well as Magnus Thorson, which goes along with the Thunderclap to give us a one-sided sweeper, which is handy to have. Red has a bunch of aggressive minions. We have Forged Strigoi Pup, as well as a couple Iron Flesh Performers to give us a couple extra 1-drops. We also have 4 of the Daring Trapezist, 3 of the Panic Raiders, both of which have Rush, and finally the Wings of Abaddon, which also has Rush. So, a lot of good aggressive cards in here. We did lose the Iron Belly Wyvern in the latest patch. That no longer has Rush. That is now Swift and Teleport. So that's been taken out, but I don't think it's slowed this deck down at all. In fact, I think this deck is better off without it. And you saw that from the results there. And overall, I was 6-2 with this deck. I didn't play a whole lot with it. I wanted to try some other stuff with the new cards, but this is a very, very strong deck overall. Another fine creation from the mind of Tunestar. I think this deck is going to be a very prominent player in the weeks to come in the metagame. Definitely something you're going to want to watch out for. But we'll see if the mid-range control decks are able to adjust and kind of keep it under control, or if this deck will keep the control decks in check in the long run, which I'm hoping it does, so we don't have like the last minute game where it just seemed to be all control decks and a mid-range deck here and there. Some of the weaknesses of this deck, I don't think there's anything too significant. It has some of the usual aggro deck type of problems, whereas if it's not able to get underneath the mid-range or the control deck fast enough, it just kind of sputters out and runs out of gas by the time the opponent is able to go over top of this one. So that's kind of typical, though. Something you'd expect from an aggro deck. Also, we are only running 20 minions in here. Because we're running Rainbow's End, we need 11 enchantments. There are also 9 spells in here to be able to put in the Alacrities, the Vulcan Brands, and the Honed Edges. So we have a 50-50 split between minions and non-minions, which can leave 2 instances where you don't have a minion in hand. Instead, you have a bunch of enchantments and spells you can't really use. But overall, I would say this deck is really, really consistent and able to get in for a lot of damage very quickly. So far, it has not been too much of an issue. Like I said, though, I haven't played a ton of matches with this one, but we'll see how it does in the days to follow. And I will definitely leave a link in the description below. You can check this deck out for yourself. Another excellent creation from Tunestar. I think this is going to be a big one in the upcoming metagame. So that's going to be it for me today. You can check me out on Twitch. I usually stream about 8 p.m. Wednesdays Eastern Standard Time and about 1 or 2 p.m. Sundays Eastern Standard Time. If you're not able to check me out on Twitch, I do Twitch Tuesdays now on YouTube, so I will have some Twitch replays up on Tuesdays now for you to check out. And Thursdays, at least for the next few weeks, will be Ladder Thursdays once again. So nice to be back and covering this series once more. So that's going to be it for me today. Thank you for tuning in. Make sure you check out my team's website, Nephilim GG. I've been writing articles past few weeks. You can check out some of my articles as well as some of my teammates. And leave a comment below. What do you think of Red Blue Aggro? Are you happy to see it back? Are you scared that it's back now? Do you think it's going to have a prominent role in the metagame? Let me know in the comments below. And like I said, I will see you guys next time. Make sure you guys stay safe out there.